Hi, everyone. My name's Sharon, and this is Pulse, a platform that turns messy customer feedback into real-time growth. Pulse was born out of a real problem I experienced while working at a healthcare SaaS startup. We needed, we had 300 hours of interview transcripts to sift through, and we needed insights within a week. So I did what any desperate and savvy marketer would do. I duct taped together Gemini, ChatGPT Enterprise, Canva, and Zapier to put together this scrappy LLM-powered workflow that ended up cutting our synthesis time from 4 weeks to half a day. We launched a new feature and boom, 500 user signups in 72 hours. This experience made it really clear to me that the teams that can understand customers fastest are the teams that win. So today I'm here to show you how Pulse makes this possible. I'm going to start with an analogy. Imagine you're starving and you walk by your favorite restaurant in New York City. You can smell the food and see it on other people's tables, but the kitchen just closed. So this feeling of frustration is something that every SaaS operator I've talked to relates to. Your team has endless feedback from interviews, support calls, Slack threads, but none of it is synthesized and none of it is structured. Nobody has time to go through it. So this is the bottleneck that Pulse aims to solve. High-performing SaaS teams run on a pretty simple loop: listen, synthesize, act, learn, and repeat. The problem is that this synthesized part is now taking forever. I'm talking about weeks to extract themes and messaging from qualitative feedback, or even if it happens at all. Pulse accelerates this synthesis step, and so I believe that when insight velocity increases, everything else accelerates, including experimentation, which is very important for marketing, learning cycles, and ultimately drive revenue growth. For why now, I'm going to start with telling you about Kevin. So Kevin is a growth marketer at a Series A startup. He's responsible for messaging, campaigns, gathering customer insights, and somehow also managing the company's Slack channels. Kevin has no research team, no head of research ops, just Kevin, 47 browser tabs, and a dream. Right now, Kevin is staring at granola transcripts he hasn't read, Slack threads from customer support, and tickets piling up since July. And he also has a Notion document titled Insights Q3 that's just empty. Here are two things that make Pulse especially relevant for the Kevins of today. Companies use about 100 SaaS tools each. This means qualitative feedback is exploding, but teams are drowning in data they can't process. SaaS GTM type cycles have also been compressed. Growth teams now operate on a weekly sprint, and they cannot afford slow insights. Pulse sits at the intersection of these forces: data overload, rising AI capacity, and the need for speed. So here's the thing: there are at least 12,000 Kevins out there. Early stage SaaS companies with under $3 million raised. That's our day one wedge, with around 360K ARR at 3% adoption. We zoom out one layer, we get 22,000 US SaaS companies, and at a 35% adoption rate, that's 24.5 million serviceable market. And you zoom out one more layer, we get the global addressable market, which is $8 million. I interviewed around 20 growth managers, including Kevin, and they're relying on gut instinct or have no time to dig up any insight for their pitch. Lean growth teams are data rich but insight poor. Pulse is designed specifically for these non-technical operators who need clarity fast, want persona-driven insights, and don't want to manage an entire research repository. This prototype that I'm about to show you embodies the workflows they asked. All right, we'll start with uploading. So you can copy and paste your conversation in the contact window and click analyze. You can also upload PDFs of the transcripts, and this adds on to people's existing workflow. Then we'll get a very simple, high-level analysis with different cards. So key themes ranked by different recurring patterns, top pain points, and also specific example customer quotes, because a lot of growth marketers have to pull quotes fast and get approval from these customers. for testimonials or feature articles. And so it's easier for them to follow up with specific traceability. And they also have suggested messaging angles and also different visual summary tables so that growth marketers can find what they need really quickly. One thing I added was personal persona profiles, so understanding who's your primary user segment, secondary user segment, and so on, and have these summarized so that you can use it immediately for the campaign. You also have a history of all the transcripts you have analyzed. And then we go into the unified dashboard. So this is where all of your data sits at one glance. You can filter it by campaign. There's a empathy health score, which is hoping to build a habit so that you're always trying to understand your customers' needs. It will increase as you log onto the platform more. Then you get a persona motivation map. You understand from different motivation drivers how they shift as different campaigns go on, and also more details about who your champion user is, who you're going to have to convince to spend money on your products. And then there's the persona playbook generator. And here you can basically sort it out by the specific industry. And we will be clicking B2B SaaS. And also the champion persona, which here we'll say founder. And then there will be the specific messaging angles and also the recommended channels, which are really important for determining marketing mix and where this marketing budget goes. Is the same thing as the customer testimonial quote card. And then we will get into how we measure. Here's the ROI tracker. This is our last part of the demo. You will get to see your average CTR and also an in-app UTM builder. So all the insights that you have, you can click and it will automatically generate a UTM link so that you can then insert and launch your campaigns and also integrate with your larger dashboards like Mixpanel and for the rest of the teams to understand also whether this product is worth spending money on. To implementation. So right now, you can go back to this if you guys had more specific questions. But right now, here's what the competitive landscape looks like. There are adjacent tools on the market, but they solve very different problems. So Dovetail is one of the biggest players. They're built for research ops, very powerful, but very clunky and heavy. Canny is really good for and product board as well. Great for collecting feedback, but not really for synthesizing it. And some people say, why not ChatGPT? It's very general purpose. There's no workflow, no clustering, no persona mapping, and no ROI. So Pulse aims to differentiate this by offering an end-to-end go-to-market flow. And this is the first tool built specifically for growth teams, not researchers. In terms of the revenue model, it mirrors how modern bottom-up SaaS products go. There's a free Explorer tier to try to build stickiness. Makes it easy for someone to just try Pulse without needing a budget approval. Then there's the growth tier at around $18 per month. This price is around the same as like your Grammarly or Notion AI, focused on individual marketers who want fast synthesis for their own account. The long-term value really comes from the team plan. Teams often need to share insight, libraries, role-based access, cross-functional digests, and higher usage. So when Pulse spreads within a company, it naturally lands in that $12 per seat team model. And this really reflects the difference between solving one person's workflow versus solving a team's alignment problem. Okay. Fine. So what this technology management program taught me is that the most successful and innovative companies have processes in place that allow them to hear their customers clearer and act faster. Pulse makes customer obsession part of the workflow and makes it operationally possible for teams to drive growth. It accelerates customer empathy, aligns teams, and connects insight directly to revenue. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This is just my ask, your feedback, and if you know anyone who's currently rage reading customer transcripts at 11 p.m., please reintroduce them to me. Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to go with Joy. Yeah, great. Very product. So, two questions. What is around how you measure success? So, how do you judge? You got to it a little bit. How you judge if it's working?
Yeah.
Which is going to be, the hardest thing to do, and the biggest test for whether they're going to start paying for it, right?
Yeah. So currently they really traced more of a manual step where they have to create a UTM tag, and then that gets added into a slot link. And usually what marketers do is to insert that link when they launch like a LinkedIn post or whatever. And then that will give the signal to your dashboard that this little piece of information is coming from posts.
And it does actually say do this, like post something on LinkedIn, post something on,
Mhm,
or actually to give that level of recommendation.
mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is um how does this sort of jive with other tools that are being used? Let's just talk about your your example is a startup SaaS company, right?
Yes.
So what are the tools they typically using, and how does this work with those tools?
Yeah.
Or like all like those editors, which are so what's and I would have the same question around what's to stop, ChatGPT or any of these companies from sort of doing something.
So right now with ChatGPT, and this is also from a lot of my user interviews, it gets really mixed up because when the transcripts get really long, it starts to hallucinate and it starts mixing up the people's names with the speakers, and it just starts spitting out really nonsensical information that's not very helpful and hard to trace back on how it synthesized it. And so by breaking it down into more of like an agentic workflow, I'm using N8N. It kind of breaks down these parts into micro segments so that you can more easily trace back how the logic happened when it does went through the synthesis. Um,
One
Yeah.
very fast question. David.
Just a comment. I really like that you focus on growth teams versus product teams. How do you see the evolution from early startup and then as these companies you want to stay with them, right? ARR over years, LTV, all of that. How what's the value proposition in Series A, Series B? How do you see the company evolve?
Yeah, so right now I'm hoping to have more of a low friction entry point. So basically fitting into their existing tech stack, hoping to have more like Slack digests to be sent through the teams that would have kind of like the host branding so that people are like, oh, where'd you get this information? And have that be kind of data backed and evidence backed. Then once that habit has formed, people want to access more of the data, then I think I could expand more to the more than the growth vertical, so maybe more customer success and product, but really building a product that is very great for growth people to have is
Awesome. I think you'll invest. You